It was a quiet Saturday morning on my farm, birds chirping, coffee in hand, and not a care in the world. That is, until I looked out the window and saw something that made me stop cold. Standing at the edge of my driveway was the HOA president, with an asterisk Realtor asterisk. At first, I thought they were lost or maybe looking at a neighboring property. But then, they started pointing at asterisk my house asterisk, walking the land like they already owned it. I watched in disbelief as the realtor snapped photos, took notes, and chatted with the president like this was some kind of open house. An open house for my property. Well, I was asterisk still living in it asterisk. I knew the HOA president had been overstepping lately, sending nitpicky notices, questioning my livestock, even commenting on the color of my barn. But this was something else. No warning, no letter, nothing. Just bold as daylight, showing off my farm like it was on the market. I stepped outside, heart pounding, not sure what I was about to walk into. Were they really trying to sell my farm without my consent? And if so, asterisk, how far had this gone asterisk? Stick around, because what happened next turned a bizarre misunderstanding into a full-blown confrontation, and I wasn't about to back down. As I walked toward them, the HOA president turned around with the fakest smile I've ever seen. "Oh, didn't expect to see you home," she said, like I wasn't supposed to asterisk be living on my own farm asterisk. The realtor, clearly confused, looked between us and asked, "Wait, you're the asterisk owner asterisk?" I nodded slowly, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. That's when the president jumped in with some vague excuse about exploring future possibilities for the neighborhood and potential redevelopment. Redevelopment? I've owned this land for years, paid for it fair and square. This isn't some vacant lot. It's my asterisk home asterisk. Apparently, she'd told the realtor that the property was part of a planned transition and might be coming available soon. She never mentioned that I had zero plans to sell, or that, I was asterisk living here full-time asterisk. My farm isn't some empty piece of real estate. It's got animals, equipment, a working garden, and me. But the way she spoke, it was like I was just in the way. She tried to brush it off like it was all just a misunderstanding, but her tone didn't match her words. Something was off. And as I started asking more questions, the answers got even murkier. That's when I realized this wasn't just overstepping. This was something else entirely. I stood there, trying to stay calm, but inside I was boiling. The realtor stepped back a bit, clearly uncomfortable, and started flipping through her paperwork. That's when I caught a glimpse of a listing sheet, with asterisk my address asterisk on it. Photos of my barn, the pasture, even the inside of my home from a picture I'd posted on social media a year ago. "How did you get this?" I asked, trying not to raise my voice. The realtor stammered something about the HOA providing background materials. The president quickly cut her off, saying, "We were just doing a preliminary look. No decisions have been made." But the problem was, I never gave them permission to do any of this. I started to wonder, was this about money? Was the HOA trying to flip my land for profit? There'd been rumors of developers sniffing around the area, looking for larger properties to turn into luxury homes. And my farm, right on the edge of the neighborhood, was probably their dream target. The president had always been obsessed with community image, always pushing her little rules and guidelines. Maybe my chickens and tractor didn't fit her vision, but this was more than just aesthetics. This felt personal. Later that day, a neighbor texted me, "Hey, heard you're selling. What's going on?" That's when I knew this story was spreading, and I wasn't the one telling it. That text from my neighbor was the final push. I knew something bigger was going on. I spent the rest of the afternoon making calls, knocking on doors, and digging into whatever I could find. Turns out, this wasn't the first time the HOA president had pulled something shady. Another neighbor told me she once tried to pressure a retired couple into selling their corner lot, claiming it didn't fit the future vision of the neighborhood. They ended up moving out not long after. Now it was starting to make sense. I checked the HOA meeting minutes online, and sure enough, buried deep in one of the recent updates was a vague line about long-term property realignment opportunities. No details, no votes, just slipped in like it was nothing. And yet here she was, showing up on my land with a realtor, acting like she had full control over something she didn't own. The tension really exploded when I showed up to the next HOA board meeting. People were already whispering, some giving me curious looks, others avoiding eye contact altogether. The tension really exploded when I showed up to the next HOA board meeting. People were already whispering, some giving me curious looks, others avoiding eye contact altogether. I'd brought the listing flyer with me, dropped it on the table, and asked one question: who gave permission for this? You could have heard a pin drop. The president looked cornered, eyes darting, and just before she opened her mouth, someone in the back stood up, someone I never expected to speak out. The room froze as Mr. Lyle, one of the quietest, oldest residents on the block, stood up. He usually kept to himself, mowed his lawn, waved politely, and never got involved in HOA politics. But now all eyes were on him. I wasn't going to say anything, he began, voice steady but low. But this isn't the first time she's tried to push someone off their land. You could feel the air shift. The HOA president stiffened in her chair. Mr. Lyle continued, explaining how 2 years ago she approached him with what he called a friendly offer to buy his back acre, the one with a small shed and garden. She said it was for community space, but wouldn't put anything in writing. When he refused, he started getting hit with code violations every other week. Weeds, shed too close to the fence, even complaints about the color of his gate. He kept quiet, didn't want trouble. But after hearing my story, he said, I think it's time people knew. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about my farm. It was a pattern, a power move. And as she'd been doing this for years, how many others had been pressured or pushed out? The realtor didn't even know half the story, and now more neighbors were starting to speak up. The room wasn't silent anymore. It was buzzing. Something big was unraveling, and fast. The room was practically humming now, neighbors murmuring, a few nodding in agreement with Mr. Lyle, others pulling out their phones, snapping photos of the flyer I'd placed on the table. The HOA president's face was flushed, her usual confidence cracking. She tried to speak, saying it was all a misunderstanding, but nobody was buying it anymore. Then someone else stood up, Maria, from 3 houses down. She'd been on the HOA board briefly, but stepped down suddenly last year. She looked right at the president and said, "Tell them about the deal with the developer." That's when the room fell silent again. Maria pulled out an email printout and slid it across the table. It was a message from a local real estate firm, thanking the HOA for helping streamline the acquisition process for future development sites. Attached was a list of properties they were targeting, and there at the top of the list was *my address*. The president tried to deny it, but the damage was done. A vote was called right there to remove her from her position, and to my surprise, it passed unanimously. People were angry, not just at her, but at the idea that their homes could have been next. Just when I thought it was over, Maria leaned in and whispered, "You might want to check your title records. This goes deeper than just her." And just like that, the real story had only just begun. The next morning, I went straight to the county clerk's office to check my title. Thankfully, my deed was still clean. No liens, no shady transfers, just my name where it belonged. But Maria was right. The developer had submitted intent to purchase documents on several properties, including mine, based on verbal agreements with the HOA president. They were trying to build a case before approaching owners directly, hoping pressure from within the HOA would do the rest. With the president removed and the documents exposed, the board had no choice but to call an emergency meeting. This time, the community showed up in full force. New rules were put in place to prevent any future land deals without homeowner consent. Maria rejoined the board, and so did Mr. Lyle, both determined to keep things transparent. As for my farm, it's staying just the way it is, green pasture, chickens, tractor, and all. No one's selling it out from under me. The whole ordeal taught me a hard but valuable lesson. Even in small communities, you've got to stay alert. Titles, property rights, and HOA politics aren't things to ignore, because sometimes the real estate drama isn't in a contract, it's right at your front door. With the president removed and the documents exposed, the board had no choice but to call an emergency meeting. This time, the community showed up in full force. New rules were put in place to prevent any future land deals without homeowner consent. Maria rejoined the board, and so did Mr. Lyle, both determined to keep things transparent. As for my farm, it's staying just the way it is, green pasture, chickens, tractor, and all. No one's selling it out from under me. The whole ordeal taught me a hard but valuable lesson. Even in small communities, you've got to stay alert.